East New York, Brooklyn, on the far reaches of New York City. You don't think about this place. You don't think about this place at all. It's sort of locked away in a little enclave, but lots of people live there. I was born there and lived there until 1969. Thomas Wolfe wrote a book called You Can't Go Home Again, but you can always remember. "544 Hemlock Street. 544 Hemlock Street. 544 Hemlock Street." 4 stories high, and our family moved to the top. And there were 4 kids in my family, and we had 4 rooms. The kitchen had copper and turquoise stenciled walls, and there were 2 bedrooms. One of them was coral-colored, and the other one was lilac. In the living room, there was a window that looked out onto a courtyard, and we shared a clothesline with the people across the way, and we'd have conversations when we were putting out or pulling in the wash. And everybody at 544 listened to music, and all different kinds of music seeped out of everyone's apartment and blended together in the hallways. George Rifkin used to sit behind his doorway playing his trap set. He had a little goatee and he looked a lot like Mitch Miller, and he had a wife named Ray Rifkin who had peroxided blonde hair, and the whole family wore sweatshirts. Johnny Wilson was a policeman, and he had big muscles on his arms, and he and his Italian wife Dottie used to invite our family over for eggplant parmigiana. And the women had weekly get-togethers, and they'd have Tupperware parties, and they'd play mahjong. Mom always wore the best Chinese lounging pajamas. And at Christmas time, Dad dressed up as Santa Claus, and he'd tell stories to all the kids in the building. The Dinnersteins, the Donnellys, the Bastians, the Boscos, the Blooms, the Rizzos, the Snydermans, Mrs. Conakey and Miss Lynch, all mingled in the hallway with the tiled floors and the marble steps and the wooden banisters that us kids used to slide down. And it was like being in some kind of a city cavern, the way it echoed and everything. 544 Hemlock Street. 544 Hemlock Street. 544 Hemlock Street. Marcia Baskin's house always had the smell of chicken soup. Her mother was always boiling it. They always had it every Friday. Boiled chicken. Yick. And you know what? When Kennedy was being assassinated on TV, Marcia was over there in the bathtub having her pimples picked. I had ringlets in my hair. My mother used to comb my hair and make these big banana curls. That's what I was doing, waiting for them to dry when Kennedy died.
Jaime and Harry were the fruit man and the butcher respectively, and they had a little store together over there on Pitkin Avenue. I'd go there to buy things, and there's a bakery too. You can get a little cornbread. I'd take out the middle slice because it's so good to eat it, and then you'd stick it together, and no one knows what you've done. Fairy tales can come true, it can happen to you if you're young at heart.
There's something going on with Claire. She's so sexy. She's got a very chubby daughter named Rhonda. But Claire, she's like a movie star. Her husband Milton's kind of chubby too, and he wears glasses. But Claire, they listen to Ema Sumac. God, she's so hip. My father told me later that he was at a party with her and he tried to kiss her. She's gorgeous. I put on shows in the courtyard. There were no trees or anything, so it was easy. The people in the houses up above us had a really good view. I was Sue Starr, the dancing fashion designer, and I cried when I announced that Dottie Bloom let me wear her dress. Oh, I cried. Thanks, Dot.
We're killing the ants. We're dropping the ball on the line and we're killing the ants. We're gonna stick the caterpillars too. We're gonna kill the caterpillars too. And then we're gonna kill you. We're gonna kill you. We're gonna kill you. Alright, Ma! I'm coming!
Mrs. McIntyre is the teacher of the class at Public School 159. Her husband works as an executive in some Chrysler building in Manhattan, and she goes to community meetings. Isn't it nice of her to come to our little neighborhood and teach our class? Now, children, there's going to be a new child coming into the class, Ada Widzer. She spent a number of years living in Brazil. Oh, my husband and I had a little trip to Rio recently. Now, don't forget about all the trees you've learned about in your textbooks. Bananas grow in Brazil. Don't forget it. No.
Ada Widzer. She was born in Montreal, but she and her Polish mother Bessie and her Russian father Yakov moved to Argentina when Ada was 3. To Argentina, where her little brother Fievel was born. And then they lived in Brazil, the jungles of Brazil. On Ada's 10th birthday, the Widzers moved to Coney Island, and then a year later they moved to East New York. And from the moment she was introduced as the new pupil in my 6th grade class, I could tell that there was something special about her. She had blue almond eyes and bangs that covered her eyebrows, and she spoke with an accent. At first she wore clothes that didn't go together at all, and she looked a little dorky. But as time went by, she began to look like Audrey Hepburn. Oh, and she liked to draw horses. Something really different about her. I liked her a lot. I would show her how to do the American dances, and she would exoticize me. I liked her a lot. And I remember the first time I visited Ada's ground floor apartment at 611 Euclid Avenue. The kitchen smelled like sardines. Her family ate sardines and green peas and eggs a lot. Her mother Bessie was sitting at the table. She had bright red hair and rosy cheeks and a wide jaw and no front teeth. No front teeth at all. She had 2 glasses on the table. One had hot tea in it and the other had her teeth soaking in it. And there were books, Rosicrucian literature, and the National Enquirer too. I thought she was strange. Ada went to the bathroom and she screamed because she saw a cockroach, and I never understood why Ada screamed when she saw cockroaches, because didn't she grow up in Brazil? Weren't there lots of giant flying bugs there? Anyway, whenever Ada screamed, Bessie would yell, "The devil is in you! The devil is in you!" Oh yeah, I think she really believed it. The living room was Ada's parents' bedroom too, and it was filled with a big bed, a dresser with a mirror on it, a television set with a remote control for it. A remote control and a bed in the living room. Jakob, her father, worked in Peru for 7 months out of every year, but Bessie would save newspapers, and there were newspapers stacked almost to the ceiling and in 7 languages. Jakob read in 7 languages: Hebrew, Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Russian, and English. And when he was home, he lied in the bed with his white t-shirt with the little thin straps and the little black curly hairs on his chest. He'd lie, his one real leg was on the bed, but his plastic leg was always standing by itself at the side of the bed, and it had a little leather strap on it. Ada shared a room with her little brother, Faivola. Faivola's head was kind of flat on top, and he had a pointed chin, white skin, and freckles, and he always wore his yarmulke.
If Jakob saw him without it, watch out. Anyway, there were 2 beds back there, metal ones in an L-shaped configuration. And there was a metal locker for clothes, and a dresser, and a window with curtains covering it that were, I don't know how they got that way, Gray. Sometimes I would sleep over at Ada's house, and I slept with her in her bed, and Fievel's friend Johnny Lee slept over with him in his bed. Fievel was Bessie's little angel! But little did she know that he and Johnny Lee had a little business ripping off all the coins from payphone booths in the neighborhood. Just because Johnny Lee's father ran a very clean place, the Chinese laundry, doesn't mean that Johnny Lee's a clean boy. And when Fievel went out robbing, he wore his yarmulke. I had a little electric manova. I'd screw the bulbs in to light the candles up. But my parents always sat in the back room, smoking cigarettes and eating pork chops. The Jewish people in the projects looked so tiny there inside of all the big buildings they had. They used to sneak out of there to go to synagogue on the high holy holidays. And it was such an inspirational song the cantor was singing. And I wanted to go downstairs with the men, with the nice silk shawls they had, with the fringes. But we had to sit upstairs. We had to sit upstairs. You know, the projects, there it is now. There used to be a big, beautiful synagogue with marble. I thought stone was forever. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Maria Finchenko. Maria Finchenko. Maria Finchenko lived by Highland Park with her Russian father Vasily and his mother Nunu, who she shared a room with. Nunu was over 70 years old and didn't speak a word of English. She was always stirring a big pot of borscht on the stove. Their bedroom had little watercolors that Maria had painted, tastefully placed on the walls, and light was always streaming in through the windows. I'd go over there with my long, silky dresses, and Maria would play Russian music on the phonograph, and I'd dance over the ottomans and she'd sketch. Her mother, who didn't live with them, was Austrian, and she would come to visit Maria on weekends, and they'd take walks in the park and talk about clouds. Imagine talking about clouds with your mother. Her father seemed a bit grumpy. He was always working on the radio and TV sets and other appliances that surrounded his cot in the living room. He didn't like me very much. He thought I was a very bad influence on Maria, that I was trying to de-Russianize her.
Рикшай нуфри беге медурайс нюсятучи. Фраду бишна тепете коросна раса не бекетирайш. Саке кидай флай, магу те протепе мехайро снигичдай ропе. Райпусе сниги, хамадай.
We sit at the table. We eat caviar. 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 We listen to Stravinsky and Rachmaninoff. I love the way you people have got things set up in here. You seem so refined. Wasn't me who told Maria to paint all the wood in the house red, white, blue, and yellow. I love real wood. We only had thin wood panels in our house that my father never even really hammered up on the wall properly. Not very attractive. And I read Dostoevsky. And I even learned a couple of Russian words. Da. Нет. And I know how to do a little Russian dance.
They serve real vegetables, not the olive green kind that we used to get in cans. And they were a whole lot different than the other Russian people I knew who were Jewish. There was so much quiet in the place. And I'm really glad I learned how to do the troika in the 6th grade. This way I had a little something to show them. I remember going to St. Fortunato's church. I'd sit down in a pew, wondering if anybody knew I was Jewish. I wanted to go into those little confession booths they had. They looked so romantic with all the dark wood and the red velvet. 2 booths. Father Spina was in the one on the left, and Father Hart was in the one on the right, and they wore gowns. I wanted to go in, but I had to just sit there, and I had a lot to confess, and there were no psychiatrists or anything at that time. You know, Frank Toretto was really cute, but he hated Jews. And my father was tall and blonde, and he worked with his arms, and one time I told Frank that my father was Irish. And he believed me, too, for a while.
Hey, Shell, the old man's Irish, huh? You want to go to a movie or something?
If I wanna dance with you, if I wanna dance with you, I'll hold your arms, I'll hold you real tight. We're gonna spin the bottle, we're gonna kiss, we're gonna run hands. We're gonna close the doors so that nobody'll find us, 'cause our parents would slap the shit out of us if they found us. My grandmother Gertie died when she was 30 plus 22, that makes 52. I loved her best of all. She had 2 dresses, one purple paisley and one green paisley one. And she held card games in her house for a living. They said she was crude, they said she was the most immaculate one too. And she cooked fish for us on Fridays, and I loved her. Aunt Clara owned a plastic flower company, and she decided to loan our family some money so that we could buy a house. At first we looked at houses on Long Island, one-family houses, houses with attics and flowered wallpaper and big willow trees out front. But Aunt Clara decided that it would be a whole lot better if we got a 2-family house so that we could bring in a little extra income. Well, we looked all around and we finally found one. It had a basement, it had a backyard, it had upstairs neighbors. Seal Snipper with her stiff red beehive and her high heels. She looked like 17, but she was really 57. It was a lovely day when we moved to the house on the corner.
And it was only a block and a half away from where we used to live at 625 Hemlock Street. When we bought the house, the backyard was filled with trees. It looked like a jungle. But Dad said they were just weeds, so he tore them all out and laid down some slabs of marble that he found in an old building. Our dogs King and Clancy and Gypsy used to go back there by the one lilac bush that still remained. And Uncle Benny took Dad in as a partner in a salvage business, and they'd buy up old buildings that the city had slated for demolition, and they'd rip out all the plumbing, clean it up, and sell it in their used plumbing store. Dad brought a lot of things home with him. Old books and records, pieces of stained glass, water-soaked boxes of Christmas lights that he thought we'd fix and sell. One time, he brought home enough bricks to cover the walls in the basement and to build a curved brick bar and oversized brick flower boxes that we filled with sand and all the plastic flowers that Aunt Clara had given us. The Misty Lingerie Company. Mom got a job there as a switchboard operator. She'd come home really tired at night and she'd lie in her bed with her card tray over her lap. She played solitaire and read Henry Miller novels. And a big bottle of Pepsi-Cola and her cigarettes and her potato chips were always on the nightstand. And I'd serve her lamb chops. She liked them really well done, and she especially appreciated the meat around the bone. And we'd talk about what happened to each of us that day. And she'd tell me about somebody that said she had a really beautiful telephone voice, and somebody that told her that she was really articulate, and she never did finish high school. Neither did Dad. Neither did I. On my 16th birthday, I got to have a large chunk of the basement for my own apartment, and I would invite my friends over for dancing sessions, and sometimes I'd go lie in the storage room in the back on piles of old fabric and old furs and old clothes, and once when I was in there, I found a suitcase. Inside there was a photograph of Dad with his arm around some red-haired woman and a little boy that I'd never seen before, and a copy of Last Exit to Brooklyn. I remember the way we used to dance in the basement to Johnny Mathis. I was being dipped. Warm your lips against my lips, as warm as fingertips. I never felt so warm. I love you, baby, more than you'll ever know.
Born to be wild. You know you're sweet little heartbreaker, foxy lady. I should have known you'd bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from this. One to make you larger and one to make you small. And the ones your mother gives you don't mean anything at all. Goldfinger, he's the man, but man with the Midas touch. Don't want you out in my world, just you be my backstreet girl. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Mad it's all paradise about the things she saw, the two big horns on the woolly dog, woolly. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah. Chain of food. I was made of love. And I cried just a little 'cause I love you so. And I died just a little 'cause I have to go away. Let's lock the door and throw away the key. Let's lock the door and throw away the key. Your turn.
Get on the scene like a sex machine.
Honey, tell me why. Sitting down by the window. Honey, I was looking out at the rain. Everyone knows it's windy. I've windy hands for you slip into unconsciousness. I'd like to have another day, another flashing chance at place.
Hey, who? You bring those creepy friends of yours around here, I'm gonna shove it up all of your asses. You got a lot of guys on the block. You got Vinny Russo and the Crescent Gang. Yeah, they're really hip. And if you're black and you walk down their street, they're gonna fucking kick your ass. They're gonna fucking kill you. And they thought I was pretty weird too. Yeah.
I was scared coming home on the train late at night. I was so scared, just like I am nowadays. I thought I was supposed to be at a safe age, but no such luck. The same kind of things are running through my head now that was running through it then. Come and visit me and I promise you won't get your face sliced open like the last guy that came. He told me he was from a group out in Ohio called the Music Explosion, and I believed him because the only thing I knew about Ohio was that there was some kind of bubblegum groups out there. But then he came, and they ripped his face right open. I promise it won't happen to you.
Franklin K. Lane, the high school surrounded by a cemetery. Half of the school was located in South Ozone Park, Queens, and the other half in East New York. I'd gone to school in Manhattan for a year. There were 500 kids in that school, but I decided that I wanted to be a little closer to home. There were 5,000 kids at Franklin K. Lane. I went to the late shift with kids who they were bussing in from other parts of Brooklyn. And when I first came around, I was wearing my fancy city clothes. My squirrel coat and my little shoelaces matched the bows on my hat. And sometimes I wore berets. And the black girls in my class would always say, "Hey, Bonnie, where's Clyde?" Pretty soon I stopped wearing my Twiggy-like attire and put on blue jeans. It was the time of the Vietnam War, and a lot of teachers taught there so that they didn't have to go. Mr. Tannenbaum was an English teacher and a drummer too, and he used to invite me down to his class to teach protest songs. We were the first school to hang the African flag in the classroom, and I tried to join the Afro-American Club. But no, you're white. One time, thousands of guys came down from the elevated trains with broken bottles in their hands. They were rioting. Ira Schwartz wore a black beret and he looked like Che Guevara, except he had blonde hair. He lived in Cypress Hills projects. He wore military boots. He turned me on to Marx and Engels. We started going up to SDS meetings up at Columbia University. The kids in the high-ceiling apartments where the meetings took place looked like us, but they were different. Bourgeois! Bourgeoisie! Bourgeois! One night, the meeting ended a little later than usual. I asked Ira Schwartz to accompany me home. We took the A train to the last stop in Brooklyn, and when we got to my house, I invited him in. Before I knew it, he had unzipped his pants and pulled out his cock. Not very political. I turned on the light. Cockroaches started crawling out of the dining room table. Dad worked in cockroach-infested buildings, but he'd always yell at Mom when he saw cockroaches. Dad. He was gone a lot now. He was drinking a lot now. Mom was home alone now. Dad, the same guy who always brought his black friends home with him, even when guys on the block would say, "You don't bring that nigger round here," he would say, "You don't mess with me, I'll bring home whoever I like." Dad, he was singing a different song now. The same guy who thought Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the best president we ever had. "Those people on welfare, they should work. They should get a job. I worked my ass off and I still came home and danced with you." Dad, the same guy who sang with me and danced to Johnny Mathis. "I had to fight him off with pipes, lazy pigs." Dad, the same guy who built solar systems with me on the bottoms of a Lazy Susan, turned. "I want respect! I worked and I want respect! I deserve respect! I earned respect! Respect! Dad, the same guy who took us for sleigh rides on refrigerator doors, found out that I was against the war. "What are you, a communist? Communist? Lazy communist? Don't, communists, those lazy, we gotta bomb Vietnam! We gotta bomb Vietnam! Living by the elevated trains. Marcia Calabro's window looked out right onto the tracks. She could practically touch the trains as they went by. Marcia Calabro. The first time I saw her was in the school auditorium at Franklin K. Lane High School. She was standing on a ladder with one thick leg extended really high. She was dancing to Bach. And when Marcia spoke English, she talked like this. But when she spoke French or Spanish, her whole mouth, her whole body, everything was totally different. Her parents were always screaming, Marcia! They had to speak really loud. They lived by the elevated trains. They owned a building that had 6 apartments in it, but they would always be collecting things, and when one family moved out, they would fill it up with objects so that they couldn't rent it out anymore. Marcia had her own apartment on the 2nd floor, and she'd sit in the window and rub rosemary oil on her hair and wrap a big turban around it, watching the trains go by, listening to the music they made. It was music to her, because she loved to love things. Sitting in the window with a guitar, and she sang like Joan Baez. And she read Rimbaud, and she read Soul on Ice, and she read Krishnamurti. And she could pick up a rock or anything and find the best light on it. And when she moved out with the Medina brothers, Jose and Eduardo, the basketball stars at Franklin K. Lane High School, her place became filled up with objects too, so that she couldn't move back in anymore. But then she moved to Spain. She became a flamenco dancer and moved in with a Spanish architect, moved in with his wife to learn the ways of another kind. She was blind, she saw just what she wanted to see. Then she became a Jew for Jesus, even though her name was Calabro, half Roman Catholic. She searched to find something that she could believe in, something she really could believe in, something of truth that she could believe in. And she taught me a lot. We'd walk under the tracks and talk about being women. Her eyes did glow. Hasidic Jew, and she's married to her second rabbi husband. I went to the first wedding, and I talk to her sometimes, and I find that her mind is still going in the same direction, 'cause she still loves, she still loves, she still loves. East New York. I don't live there anymore, but I went back recently, and I saw a lot of abandoned buildings, but there were churches with hand-painted signs in almost every other one. Went past the building I lived in until I was 3 years old, and some beautiful little kids were playing out front with sticks. It was all boarded up. And I told the little kids that I used to live there, and they said, "Yeah? Why'd you move out?" I said, "What's going on here now? Why is it all boarded up?"
Well, they was dealing a lot of drugs here, so they closed it up.
Down the road, we went to the synagogue where I used to go. It's now a Baptist church. And there was a beautiful pastor woman that was talking about repainting and fixing the chandeliers, keeping it basically the same. They also had a little daycare center in the basement. 544 Hemlock Street. Whole different kind of music playing in the hallways now. Real Spanish music, not the kind we used to listen to on Reader's Digest collection of music from the world. Down the street at 625 Hemlock Street, some kids were sitting on the stoop. I asked this one girl questions about the basement, and she looked at me like I was really weird. She told me she wanted to be an actress. No white people live in there anymore. There used to be swamps at the end of East New York, but now there were all these big, high-rise buildings. Went to Franklin K. Lane, too, but now it's a school officially in Queens, and I found out that it was the alma mater of John Gotti. Went to Marcia Calabro's house, and her family's still living there under the elevated trains, but all the families that they'd rented to had moved out, and they'd filled up all the places with their stuff. When I told Mrs. Calabro that I was doing a piece about the neighborhood, and when I started telling her about all the things that I remembered, she said to me, "How do you remember all these things? How do you remember? How do you remember?"